Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I'm going to give you guys a chance in a second to hop into the conversation. I hope you guys are doing well. I am doing very well. And I wanted to have a quick little discussion with you all about some research that I've been doing. One of the supporters in the family sent me some information that I thought was worth discussing. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. It has to do with Kamala Harris. Kamala is running for president of the United States, and Kamala, is a controversial figure. She's probably more qualified than Donald Trump. I certainly would give her that. She's a very good politician, very smart lady, but also she has some things in her present and her past that have led people to ask legit questions about who she is and what she represents and why Black people should or should not support her. Now, before we start, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. What's up, Brian and Kimberly and Sydney, right? Hello and everybody on the Black Knowledge page. Black Knowledge is run by my good friend Jamal Brewer. Jamal Brewer is a very smart brother, and there's almost 800,000 Black people on the Black Knowledge page, and that's important because this is Black media. This is where our media lives, and so when you connect to things like that, when you connect to Black media that's out here, you're building Black connectivity, which actually builds power. Media is power. In fact, in the Black Business School, I always have my students read a book called How the Jews Invented Hollywood, not because I am anti-Semitic. I'm not. I have nothing against anybody, but I learn from those who are the best at what they do. And the Jewish community has been very, very good at using media as a power play. That's why they have power in the New York Times. Even Viacom, which owns BET, has strong influence from that community. All of Hollywood, all of that, right? So I was fascinated reading these stories about how they use media to make sure they could tell their own story. And so I want to encourage you guys to make sure wherever you're at, click something, subscribe to something, join something, connect to something. If you want to get a text notification when I go live, text the word BOYCE, BOYCE, to 31996. Text BOYCE to 31996, and I will send you a notification a lot of times when I go live. Not every time, but most of the time. And make sure you definitely subscribe to drboycetv.com. That's the home for intelligent Black people. So shout out your city. And before we begin the discussion, I always like to make sure I greet you and give you my extreme, most sincere appreciation and thanks to those of you who support what we're doing, who are part of what we're doing. So I want to say hello to Frederick and Yana and In My Zone and Nairusi and Keto and Kimberly, Laverne, Ron Brockington the second. Let's see here, Derek, 916 Sacktown, Josh Johnson, Twix Mix Productions, Lois Raspberry, Anita Watkins, Cherry Misha, Forever a King, I Know My Worth, In My Zone, Keisha Banks, Terry Covington. I see Philly and Washington and Maryland, and I see a lot of other cities in here. Shout out your city, and I'll hop in and I'll mention them every now and then. And I see Houston. Houston's important because that's where we're hosting the All Black National Convention the weekend of September 27th. We lined up most of our keynote speakers. Dr. George Fraser, the master of networking, who's building channels for us to do business relationships in Africa, is going to be there. Or I think he has to finally confirm his schedule. I know at the very least Dr. Fraser is going to be on this channel a lot, and I think we're going to have him at the convention. I don't make that promise just yet. Willie D from the Ghetto Boys, already confirmed. That's my homeboy. He's running for city council down in Houston. He has my vote. He has my endorsement. He has my full support. Him and Scarface. I think both of those guys would be great for the city of Houston. Those are the kings of Houston as far as I'm concerned. Who else? The one and only legendary Vicky Dillard. Shout out if you know who Vicky Dillard is. If you don't know Vicky Dillard, you need to check her out at flynubianqueentv.com. She is a Black soldier who's always on her job and always killing it 24/7 every single day of the week. Who else? Nicole Price, one of the great leadership experts on earth. She's actually my leadership coach and damn good. And she's actually going to give Julian Gordon, a Stanford University graduate who actually teaches in the Black Business School. He teaches entrepreneurship and real estate. He's going to give a keynote there. So we got a lot of speakers, lots of panels, lots of keynotes. We're going to do also special sessions on starting your own business with attorney Nicole Compton, who is an expert at business startup practices. I'm going to do a session on how to invest. We're going to have Julian talk about real estate, etc. So it's going to be awesome. So you should come. The URL is allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. stanfordconvention.com. Let me get this started. Okay, so speaking of Stanford graduates, hit the thumbs up button, please. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that now. Everybody right now, on the count of 3, hit the thumbs up button, because that helps us with the algorithm. It gets people into the conversation. So 1, 2, 3. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Everybody hit the thumbs up button, please, especially at drboystv.com. And if you're on Facebook, you can help us by sharing this video to your page so other people can come into the conversation. All right. Speaking of Stanford University graduates, Kamala Harris's father, who was a professor of economics at Stanford. That meant something to me because I have a PhD in finance, which is kind of the second cousin to economics. I have a lot of respect for great economists. And if he's a professor of economics at Stanford, that means he's pretty smart. It's very difficult to get a position at Stanford. It's even difficult to get a PhD at Stanford, but to actually teach at Stanford means you're damn good at what you do. And I have a lot of respect for that. I know how hard it is to get there. A lot of people have these watered down fake PhDs, not Donald Harris. Donald Harris is Kamala's daddy. She was raised by a smart man, which makes her a smart woman. Kamala's brilliant. Her daddy's brilliant. The family's brilliant. I respect it all the way through. It means a lot. Now, here's what's interesting, though. It looks to me like Kamala, I should call her Kamala. I call her Kamala. People keep correcting me, so Kamala. Let's do that. Kamala has a couple of things. One, she apparently has some issues with her dad, because her dad has said things publicly that can't be helpful to her election chances. Her dad has unfortunately become a little bit like what Jeremiah Wright was for the Obama campaign, where Jeremiah Wright caused problems for Obama because he was telling a little bit too much truth. Whenever you get around people, black folks that tell the truth about racism and white people or America or anything, that's going to cause you problems. That's why Jeremiah Wright, the great man that he was a problem for Obama, because he's trying to get into the master's house, and Jeremiah Wright knows the master very well, and he spoke honestly about the master. Now, Kamala's father he's a lot different from Jeremiah Wright. He's a brilliant man, just like Jeremiah, but he has a different point of view. Kamala's dad, Donald, has actually referenced in a recent article, which you can Google, just Google Donald J. Harris and Kamala, and you'll find an article where he talks about the fact that he had slaves in his family, that they are descendants of slave owners, and he didn't say it in a way that made you feel that he wasn't sort of connecting to this heritage. It's almost like he talked about it as if he's like, yeah, this is who we are. So stop faking, stop fronting. He was already mad at Kamala, I think, for sort of fulfilling the stereotype of the Jamaican pothead, you know what I mean, who wants to just smoke weed all day. Remember she went on the Breakfast Club? Y'all tell me if you remember that, when she went on the Breakfast Club and was saying that she smoked weed, listened to Biggie and Pac in college, and people were like, but Biggie and Pac weren't even out when you were in college, so that doesn't make any sense. And that added to her other nickname, which is Chameleon Harris. A lot of people feel that Kamala, unfortunately, because she's so good, at politics, she's so crafty, she's so good at saying what needs to be said to get what she needs at the moment, that she's kind of pretending to be whatever you want at that particular moment. And that's a legit criticism, right? I think that every question you ask about any candidate is a legit question. So for example, we've had honest conversations here about Kamala's relationships and who she married. She married Douglas Emhoff, who happens to be a white guy. He's a wealthy white Jewish guy, and her career kind of took an even further upward trajectory. I think she got elected to the Senate after they got together. And before that, there was Willie Brown. When Kamala was 30, Willie was 60. So Willie was old enough to be her daddy. And that's a daddy who had a child after the age of 30, not a young daddy, right? Like 18 years, 17 years apart is a young daddy. He would almost be an old daddy, 30 years old, right? That's when a lot of people, when they third or fourth child, when they 30, 31, 32 years old, it depends on the family. But either way, though, they have that relationship. And you saw Kamala's career kind of shoot up as a result of the relationship with Willie Brown. And also, Buck Nasty is making an interesting point. That's a funny name, by the way. So Buck Nasty, to your point, yeah, he was married at the time. And that does, but at the same time, let's just be real. I mean, people do all kinds of freaky shit in the bedroom. Things happen. They have relationships where people break rules all the time. So I'm not even judging that. I'm not saying that this means she's a bad person or a good person. You can make that decision. But I think that what that pattern speaks to is that, she seems to form relationships in a way that leads to her getting what she wants. At the time she was with Willie Brown, she was, I wouldn't say a political nobody, but she wasn't where she wanted to be. She wasn't a power player at all by any stretch. Willie was, though. Willie was, the king of San Francisco. He's one of the greatest, most powerful politicians in America. And Willie, you saw benefits that Kamala seemed to receive due to that relationship. Is that wrong or unethical? I don't know. I think it's realistic. I mean, tell me yes or no. Yes or no. Do you think that it's okay if a woman is dating a man because she feels that the relationship can benefit her? Do you know women who might pick a man that can add value to her life? Maybe he's just smarter than her and she can learn from him. Maybe he's got more money. He can provide financial security. Maybe he's got some power. He can help her, get her career off the ground, right? So it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. So I want to make sure I lay it out like that. But at the same time, it's a thing, right? It's not a bad thing, but you can't say it's nothing, right? Some people say it's nothing, right? People come to me, they're like, oh, boys, you just talking shit. Why are you hating? I'm like, no. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's something, right? And when it's something, that means that there's something there to analyze in terms of understanding who she is. Why? Well, because politicians lie. Politicians are ultimately, many of them are chameleons. They are sociopaths to some extent, which in this system in America, you almost have to be a sociopath to get elected. You got to tell some lies because people don't really want the truth. They kind of want what feels good, right? So she's probably not telling you everything about who she is. So the best way to know who people are is not to listen to their words. It's to watch their actions. This is the tip. If you're dating, ladies, if you're dating a man, don't listen to what he says. Watch what he does. Same thing with the fellas. If you're dating a woman, don't just listen to what she says, like, I love you, are you the greatest, blah, blah. No. You need to watch what she does. There's an old saying that says that your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you're saying. Has anybody ever heard that saying before? Has anybody heard that? Your actions speak so loud that I cannot hear what you're saying. So when I look at Kamala's, relationships, that matters. That makes a difference because it tells me that she's very, very, very strategic. Even in the bedroom, she's strategic, right? And someone that thinks that way is somebody where you can't take everything they say for face value. You have to look at the incentives around what they're saying, right? And in fact, actually, for anybody who ever says that it don't matter that Kamala's married to a white man, why are you hating? It don't even matter. I say, okay, well, let me ask you this question. Here's a question I asked, and we're gonna go deeper into Kamala's family in a second. But let me ask you this question, okay? So I asked them, I said, okay, so you're telling me that it doesn't matter who Kamala married, who she loves. Okay, cool. Would you have supported Barack Obama if Barack had dumped Michelle and married Becky Obama instead? Would you have felt the same way about Barack if Barack was married to a white woman? Or did you like Barack even more because he chose to share his power and his wealth and his success with someone from the Black community? Yes or no? Tell me if that matters. Tell me if you think that matters. Tell me if you think, speak to me, damn it. Somebody talk to me. Somebody talk Black to me right now. Do you think it made a difference? Do you think that a lot of sisters love Barack because of Michelle? There's a reason why. They market Michelle on a regular basis, because they know that Michelle increases Barack's likability factor. Even after the election is over, they're still thinking long term. Barack is not Barack without Michelle. And pay attention, Kamala ain't really marketing her husband like that. I bet you anything that when she goes into spaces in the Black community, she ain't going out of her way to be like, here's my wonderful husband, Doug Emhoff, and I want you all to, by the whole Black community, I want you to just know all about Doug and our beautiful family. Like, she ain't doing all of that, right? She ain't doing all of that because she's smart. She's strategic, right? So I'm just trying to say, let's all just be as smart as Kamala and Doug. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to say that she's a bad person. I'm just saying, she's a smart person. So we need to be smart people too. Game needs to recognize game. If game cannot recognize game, then that means she'll be playing a game and you won't be playing the game. You won't be a player. You will be getting played, right? So game must recognize game. So that's what I'm just trying to do for y'all, is trying to break down some game based on what I'm seeing in my brain, being the man that I am, and a person who analyzes everything. I'm a mathematician, a college professor, all that stuff. So I cannot make myself stupid for your benefit. It does not make me comfortable to dumb down who I am just to make you happy. All right. So anyway, let's keep going. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. Let me talk about Kamala's family a little bit. There's some interesting information that I was sent to today about her family in terms of the slave history. It's real deep. It's real interesting. It's something else. So Kamala's father, Donald Harris, who was a Stanford University economics professor, basically, he went out of his way to tell everybody that they are descendants of slave holders. Now, I don't know why he did that, because, here's the deal. The reality is that a lot of y'all in this room right now are descendants of slave owners, right? Why? Well, because a lot of slaves got raped. The Me Too movement did not exist for Black women on the plantation. So a lot of us have slave owner blood, in our system. I've had to cope with that. I've had to deal with that. I'm right here. Right now I'm visiting Scotland, and shit, I got Scottish blood, Irish blood, British blood. What the fuck? What am I supposed to do with that? I don't want Scottish, Irish, or British blood flowing through my veins because I'm a Black man. Period. Point blank, period. I don't claim any of that. Now, what's interesting, and here's the thing, you have a right to not claim that. We live in a country, right, where people, where people go out and people decide, I'm a woman, but I really want to be a man. I identify as a man, right? I'm a man. I want to identify as a woman, or I used to identify as a woman. Now I'm identifying as a man. Next week, I might identify as a woman again. People can switch their gender. Well, then if that's the case, then you should also be able to claim what you want to identify with. So if you identify as Black, I don't care how much, non-Black blood, non-African blood you have. I want you to say it right now. I identify as Black. How do you identify? Are you Black and Irish? Are you Black and British? Or are you just Black? Just Black. Because most of y'all ain't 100% Zulu, 100% African, nothing. Most of y'all, unfortunately, have descendants that, that were raped. Right. And babies came from those rapes, and they happen systematically on a regular basis. And there was nobody there to report the crime to. There were no police reports taken. There was no Me Too movement where people could go back and sue for $100 million. None of that. Right. And that is another example of why reparations are absolutely overdue. And that's another reason why I am confused and a little disappointed, to be frank with you, with former President Obama not supporting reparations. It's a little bit sad when a donkey ass son of a bitch like Mitch McConnell can get on TV and accurately, not lying, he wasn't lying, he can accurately say, well, I am just like President Obama. Like President Obama, I don't support reparations. And also like President Obama, I am a descendant of slaveholders. Right. So when a guy like Mitch McConnell can accurately and honestly say that his political position on reparations is the same as yours, and you're supposed to be repping for Black people, you need to check yourself and ask yourself, what are you really accomplishing? What have you really done for the world, other than be a white man in Black skin? Like for example, Mitch McConnell can never get on TV and say, well, I'm just like Dr. Boyce Watkins, right? Because me and him ain't got a whole lot in common, except for the fact that we both happen to be from the state of Kentucky, right? Outside of that, he can't do that, right? So he can't say, oh, I'm just like Dual Victory. I'm just like Javon Phillips. I'm just like Marcus Ajosi. I'm just like Jason Bevelar, right? No, he can't say that because y'all not the same, right? So if you're not differentiating yourself and doing something different for Black people, then what difference are you making in the world? You're not making a difference. You're simply supporting the system that's already in place. So anyway, here's some information about Kamala's family and the whole slave thing. That's very interesting. And you can do what you want with the information. I just thought you guys would like to have it. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. And also, I want to remind you guys, starting tomorrow, we're actually doing a massive discount on bundle sales for our financial workbooks for children. We invented these financial workbooks specifically for Black children, so you could teach them about wealth and economics in your house. We believe that that's very important. The most important thing a Black person can learn is about wealth and their own history. So we actually have tools to help you do that. So if you're interested in taking a look at the bundle packs, you can go to financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. I got to throw that in there because y'all know finance and money is my thing. All right, so let's move on. All right, so here's what they said about Hamilton Brown. Hamilton Brown apparently was not only a slave owner, but he was also an engineer. I'm reading here from amren.com, AMREN.com. I'll put the links in the description below the video on drboycetv.com. So if you want to see the links, you can go to drboycetv.com and the links will be right there. You can read them yourself. It says Hamilton Brown was not only a slave owner, but also an engineer of mass Irish migration to Jamaica after the British Empire abolished slavery in 1834. According to the Jamaican Family Search, it says, quote, Hamilton Brown owned several plantations over the years 1817 to about 1845. According to the 1818 Almanac, which can be found on this site, he was the owner of Menard, which had 128 slaves, which he must have acquired from its previous owner by the name of John Bailey in 1815 or later. The number of slaves on this plantation approximates the number of slaves in one of the registers attributed to his ownership, 124 slaves. The other register, 86 slaves, cannot be assigned to any estate, although he is listed in almanacs for subsequent years as owning several plantations: Antrim, Greer Park, Colliston, Little River, Retirement, and Unity Valley. So he was apparently balling. In fact, this guy, Hamilton Brown, there's actually a town named after him in Jamaica called Brownstown. Now, what I'm going to do is share my screen real quick for you guys. If you want to see what's on my screen, you can go to drboycetv.com. I know you guys are on Facebook. I can't share it over there, but you can either go to drboycetv.com or I can just tell you what I'm looking at. All right, so here in Jamaica, in northern Jamaica, you have Brownstown, which is right here. It's not very big. There's not a lot of people in this city. If you zoom out, you can see that it's up in sort of the northern part of Jamaica. Kingston's more so in the south, and there's this big highway that the Chinese built that helps people get from Kingston up to northern Jamaica. It's very interesting because the highway is super expensive, and I don't think local people can really afford to use it that much. But it does actually make a difference in terms of the travel time. The amount of time it would normally take to go from Kingston to northern Jamaica is like 2.5, 3 hours sometimes, because you got to drive through these windy roads, and the Chinese built this big highway. But then here is Brownstown. And what I'll do is I'll read a little bit about Brownstown. And let's see, the town was founded by Hamilton Brown, who died in 1843, who was buried in the local Anglican church. Dr. James Johnston, who had been born in Scotland in 1851, arrived in Jamaica in 1874. He started his Jamaican evangelical mission in 1876. Let me see. Let me dig a little deeper here. In the 1890s, he took a team of Afro-Caribbean Jamaicans to England, where they equipped themselves to complete a 20-month journey of 4,500 miles through South Central Africa. Their journey was photographed and described in a book published in 1893. Brownstown became significant as a market center in the mid-19th century following the abolition of slavery. So the British had abolished slavery, and they still needed more workers. So that, I guess that's why they brought a lot of the Irish people over. And I think that they had a lot of slaves before the British abolished slavery. According to Kamala Harris's father, Donald J. Harris, the Democratic presidential hopeful's great-grandmother, Christiana Brown, was a descendant of Hamilton Brown, a Jamaican slave plantation owner who founded the city of Brownstown, Jamaica. According to Donald Harris, Christiana was born in 1889, 46 years after Hamilton Brown died in 1843. So he is not Christiana's father. He is potentially Christiana's great-grandfather, but it is unclear how she became his descendant, given that Hamilton Brown has many black descendants in Brownstown, St. Anne, Jamaica. So he was fucking a lot of slaves. He was an Irish man that apparently loved black women. You can't blame him for loving black women, but you can't blame him for raping black women, or whatever the arrangement was. There was a power dynamic that makes it clearly inappropriate long term. But apparently he had a lot of black babies. I don't know how many kids he had, but they're basically saying that he has a lot of black descendants in Brownstown, Jamaica. Quote, let me see, according to one elderly local in 2010, quote, a good amount of brown live here, he said, quote, people named Brown pack up the place. It's all coming from Hamilton Brown, who the town is named after. Yes, man, them teach in school. It is possible that Christiana's mother was one of Hamilton Brown's slaves or the daughter of one of his slaves. So effectively what they're basically saying is this guy that I guess started it all. He's the main descendant that people talk about when they talk about Kamala Harris's family owning slaves and all that. And it appears that Hamilton Brown, he liked women or something a lot, and he made a lot of babies. And basically, Brownstown is filled with all kinds of people who are descendants of Hamilton Brown. So the thing is, again, I don't really know if these were, if this was voluntary, these were voluntary relationships. I don't think that they were. In fact, I would argue that I lean against even assuming that, even if the two people both agree to it, because it's hard to make an argument that a slave master and a slave really truly fell in love with each other, right? You can't make that argument, mainly because she's a slave, right? So you sleep with a slave. I lean toward calling that rape. I can't call it anything other than rape. In fact, I wouldn't even dare try to do that, because I think that over romanticizes things. And I think that's what a lot of people want you to believe, is that these relationships were all consensual and wonderful and great. And to me, when the white man cripples the black man and dismantles the black man and eliminates the black man, and then he sleeps with the black woman, that's predatory behavior. That's predatory behavior. Even if I think it's consensual and I convince you it's consensual, no, I'm a predator, because I weakened your men so that you had to pick me, as opposed to black men and black women getting a chance to be together. All right. So anyway, somebody asked me if I read about R. Kelly getting arrested. No, I haven't kept up with that. I'll go take a look at that. And if there's anything to talk about, I'll bring it up. So hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. We're talking about Kamala Harris, and we're nailing down the slaves that were actually owned by her family. It all comes back to Hamilton Brown. Apparently, he's the originator of it all. Hamilton Brown lived about 200 years ago. And it is funny, when I talk to you guys about making a legacy for your family, a good legacy, not a Hamilton Brown legacy, but a legacy for your family, just know that there are things that you're doing right now that may be getting discussed by your descendants 200 years from now. So you live in the year, 2019, there could be conversations being had in 2219 about things that you do now. So when you plant those seeds and you do good things, or you start businesses for your family, or leave some land, or leave a little life insurance or whatever, you never know what that's going to turn into. So I encourage you to make sure you leave a legacy. You got to leave a legacy, a good legacy, not a Hamilton Brown legacy. All right. So the next thing I want to show you, I think this is important out of respect. This is a registry from JamaicanFamilySearch.com, which shows names and races of all the slaves registered to Hamilton Brown on the 28th day of June in the year of our Lord, 1817. So 1817, back then, what they did was they made, from what I understand, because the British had abolished slavery, they started forcing the slave owners to register all their slaves. And Jamaica was part of the British Empire. It still is. And so they basically were like, okay, you need to tell us about the slaves that you actually have, right? You can't bring any more slaves in, but the slaves that you have, we need to know what you got, right? Thank you for the comment, Delvin. I appreciate that. So let me read this to you, and then I'll show you what's here. The British Parliament abolished the slave trade in 1807, but soon recognized that transport of slaves from Africa to the Americas was still continuing. So even though they abolished slavery, they were still breaking the law. In an effort to enforce the prohibition on importation, purchase of new slaves, the slave registration system was devised. Beginning in 1817, plantation owners were required to list by name, color, age, place of birth, all slaves on their plantation. In subsequent years, 1823, 26, 29, 32, 34, the reports consisted mainly of births, deaths, runaways, and manumission. Now, you guys know on Thursday, we have Powernomics Thursday, where one of the greatest black minds in the history of this country, one of the greatest minds, period, Dr. Claude Anderson, actually breaks down the history of slavery and things like meritorious manumission. So tell me yes or no if you've ever heard Dr. Anderson talk about meritorious manumission. Is anybody, yes or no? Have you ever heard Dr. Claude? Do you know who Dr. Claude Anderson is, first of all? If you don't know who he is, that means you're new, which means you need to go check out powernomics.com, or you can go to drboycebooks.com and you can see Dr. Anderson's books. Feel free to go check him out. Okay, Dr. Claude Anderson. So you know who he is. You've heard of meritorious manumission. Anybody heard of that? Okay, I see Robert Robb, Todd Wilson. Okay, Super Omega. Okay, good. I don't want to make any assumptions and assume you know everything that the rest of us know. But if you don't know, we can now, right? And we'll catch you up as well on things. Don't worry about what you don't know. If you come in here and you're detoxing from a lifetime of coonery, that's okay. I had to go through my detox process too. White supremacy is a motherfucker. It gets deep in your brain, and I understand, but it's okay. Come on in and detox, and we will love you up until you become the person you're meant to be. Okay, so Dr. Claude Anderson talks about meritorious manumission. That wasn't a term he invented. That was an official term to describe the reward for slaves who saved a white person, saved or protected a white person. I believe it was also, you got it for snitching on other slaves. So if you went and if the slaves were about to revolt and you told the master, then you got rewards, meritorious manumission rewards for what you did. That might mean you could get money, you might get your freedom. One Negro down south, they loved him so much they built a statue for this Negro. They gave him his freedom and gave him a statue. So he damn near got the key to the city. The statue was actually up until I think the 1960s or 1970s. So that's how deep the process went. And so apparently, according to the British Empire, you had to register your manumissions. You also had to register your runaways because they also had fugitive slave laws in place. So unfortunately, most registers, which I have seen, list the vast majority of slaves by a single first name. They do not recognize marriages at all. So if you wonder why your families are jacked up, it's because black marriage was never encouraged. They didn't want black families sticking together. So that's why to this day, our families have a hard time doing what we want to do. And they give the mother's name, never the father's. Once again, that's the historical process of eliminating the father from the equation. When you weaken the black man, you weaken the black family. When you weaken the black family, you weaken the black community. So they mention the mother's name, never the father's, only for children. Generally, surnames do not appear and must have been obtained only when freedom or perhaps baptism occurred. Some pushing that religion on you. African refers to born in Africa, and Creole refers to born in Jamaica. In the color column, most individuals are listed as Negro or black. There are a few mulattoes and Sambos. I got to look up the official definition of a Sambo. I didn't know that there was that was actually in. I'm learning too. So just know I'm still in my detox from coonery. The other categories, octoroon and quadroon, etc., do not appear to have been used much, if at all. These records are difficult to use by themselves, but if used with manumission records, early baptism and marriage records, other records, and even the wills of plantation owners, it may be possible to find some of one's ancestors. Okay, so let me show you this. And I'm going to show you I'm just going to scroll down this list, and I'm actually going to put a link in the bio on drboycetv.com so you guys can actually check this out yourselves. These are the slaves that were listed to be registered to Kamala Harris's triple great grandfather, Hamilton Brown, who is the founder of Brownstown in Jamaica. This is from June 28th, 1817. These are the males. The males, they got the color, the age, African or Creole, and then any other remarks. There's not many other remarks here. You see Apollo, the first names are usually listed: Apollo, Negro, 45, African; Jen, Negro, 40, African; Sambo, Negro, 40, African; Cicero, Negro, 30, African. It's interesting because a lot of these slaves are in their 30s and 40s, and I find that fascinating. Now I guess they get down to the children. So it looks like they're listing them in chronological order from the oldest to the youngest. So if you notice, there's no slaves registered over the age of 50. So I don't know. It almost says that Hamilton Brown had a preference for slaves that could actually work in the fields. Maybe over 50 and 60, the slaves didn't have much value to him. And I show you these names because it chokes me up a little bit to read their actual names, because I think that when you humanize the slaves, like when you really talk about these individuals as people, like just like you and me, like when I say Janice or Delvin or Avied or Mimi or Linda Johnson, these are people. You're people, right? And they're people too, right? They're just like you. And I think that's important for us to understand, because I think sometimes we think of slavery in the big picture sense, and we don't think about individuals and people who had dreams and hopes like you, who had talents like you, who could have been, scientists, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, sports, athletes, whatever the hell they wanted to be, but couldn't be any of those things because they had to spend their entire life serving the white man who owned that plantation. So Hamilton Brown wasn't just a slave owner and a rapist. He was also a dream killer. He was part of the mass extermination of all black dreams and possibilities that existed at that time. He was, for these people, their Adolf Hitler. He was the one who killed all their potential, all their possibility, everything they could have become before the day they were born. So this is not a little thing. This is not, we can't allow people to have conversations that create the illusion of the benevolent slave owner. There is no benevolent slave owner out there. When you are a slave owner, and look at this, this is a lot of people. So you see here, you've got it looks like 34 to 39 are missing. You've got these other individuals here. You got the children, Charles, 16, London, 11, Negro Creole. You go, so it looks like here, okay, I thought there was an age order, but it looks like the Creoles. Okay, the Creoles were born in Jamaica. So these were, I guess, the children of maybe some of these slaves up here. Anybody born in Jamaica is listed as Creole. And then they've also got notes like Nelson is the son of Judy. Jamaica is the son of Evie. And what's fascinating here, that's really interesting. Okay, so these are all the sons of these slaves. You know what, I scratched what I said. I had a thought, but it's not relevant. So these are the females: Phoebe Love, Judy, Flora, Lucy, Maria. You go down the list, and this sort of breaks it all down. So what I'm going to do is now they got a total of 86 slaves listed here. There's evidence to say that he owned a lot more. I think that this information is important because it's important that we do an ashe for these people that had to endure the original Holocaust. And that's what this was. This was worse than death. This was not, the Holocaust, unfortunately, the Nazi Holocaust, had a lot of people that just, would get killed, and it was terrible and it was horrible. But it lasted for about six to 8 years. And a lot of times the people were just killed. Slavery, you didn't get to die. You actually had to live 70, 80 years under horrific pain and torture and extreme agony. I think it's important to talk about that. Does this mean that Kamala is not qualified to be president or qualified to receive the black vote? I'm gonna leave that up to you. I'm not in the business of telling people who to vote for, but what I am in the business of telling you to do is to make sure that whatever decision you make, you do it with full information and a full understanding of all the dynamics and the implications of every action you take. If you understand what you're doing and get it fully, then I support whatever you do. I don't care if you go vote for Trump, as long as you can tell me why you're voting for Trump and it makes sense to me. If you're not, even if it doesn't make sense to me, as long as it makes sense to you, right? Just do things for a reason. Don't do things because somebody told you to do it. Because if you do that, then you're pretty much being a slave, and we're done being slaves. I'm done. I'm not fit for slavery. So anybody coming in here trying to tell me what to do or telling me that black people should vote because the Democrats told us to do it, fuck you. Get off my page. Don't come back, because we're not hearing that shit anymore. We spent hundreds of years doing what people have told us to do, and now it's time for us to do what we tell ourselves to do. So and I'm not going to be a new slave owner. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Right. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll give you the information, but then I want you to learn to think for yourself. OK, so anyway, that's it. I'm about to go. Please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, the share button, and the subscribe button. Also, one thing we're doing to create a mass economic exodus for black people. We don't want just reparations. We want real reparations, not fake reparations, not reparations. We want real reparations. And that's going to come through massive wealth building for the black community. So one thing that I did was I created a free training. It's totally free on how to buy your first share of stock. So when you come back to the podcast, I want you to tell me that you invested. I don't care if you invested $5. It does not matter. Just as long as you're planting seeds and building a legacy for your family. You can go to blackmoney100.com, blackmoney100.com. Somebody please type that in. You can sign up, and we'll show you how to buy your first share of stock. Also, don't forget that tomorrow, which is the 12th and the 13th, we're going to have, for 2 days, we're going to have a massive discount on our financial workbooks for children. Since you guys are here, you can actually get the URL right now and go early if you want to. We're going to run out because we don't have a ton in stock. But if you want to educate your children and teach them business and economics and finance in your own house, we got with Black educational experts, and we put together workbooks for every grade level, workbooks and flashcards. If your child's in the 3rd grade, we have something for them. If they're in the 6th grade, we have something for them. If they're in high school, we have something for them. So if you want to go check it out, go visit financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. So I hope this conversation was helpful to you. I'm about to get out of here and go eat some food. So I will talk to you guys soon, and have a great evening. And I love you, every single one of you. And everybody just stay black. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.